A massive earthquake struck the western region of America at midnight, reducing a small town to rubble. 30-year-old Emily woke up in terror as the ground beneath her shook violently. She jumped out of bed and rushed to check on her 8-year-old son, Jacob. But his room was already in ruins. Concrete blocks, shattered furniture, and collapsed walls blocked her path. "Jacob!" she screamed, but there was no response. With tears streaming down her face, she ran out into the streets. Chaos surrounded her as neighbors desperately searched for their loved ones in the debris. Emily had no idea what had happened to her husband, David, who had gone to work before the quake struck. While others tried to help, the lack of proper equipment hindered their efforts. Emily began lifting pieces of rubble with her bare hands, but her strength was no match for the destruction around her. Overwhelmed by her helplessness, she could only pray, "Please, Jacob, come back to me." The devastating news of the earthquake spread rapidly across the country. Sandra Bullock, upon hearing about the tragedy, was glued to the updates on television. Driven by her maternal instincts, she immediately sprang into action. She contacted a relief organization, assembled a specialized rescue team, and made her way to the disaster-stricken town that very day. Once she arrived, Sandra found herself in the middle of the wreckage, face to face with a distraught mother, Emily. Emily, with tears streaming down her face, poured her heart out to Sandra. "My son, Jacob. I don't even know where he is. I'm trying to save him, but I feel so powerless. And my husband, David. He was at work, but I haven't heard anything from him either." Emily sobbed. Sandra held Emily's trembling hands firmly and said in a determined voice, "I'm here to help you. We will find Jacob, and we'll get through this nightmare together." For the first time since the earthquake, a glimmer of hope appeared in Emily's eyes. Sandra and Emily joined the rescue teams, working tirelessly through the wreckage. Every piece of rubble they moved held the promise and fear of finding Jacob. At the same time, they were also searching for David, Emily's husband. After hours of searching, a rescue team uncovered a body. Emily's heart shattered. It was David. Her anguished cries echoed through the quiet devastation of the town. Sandra rushed to her side, wrapping her arms around her. "Emily, I know this is unbearable," she said softly, "but we have to stay strong for Jacob. We can't give up now." Despite her heartbreak, Emily pushed herself to stand again, driven by the hope of finding her son. Sandra admired Emily's strength in the face of such immense tragedy and stayed by her side every step of the way. As they moved through the eerily silent ruins, Emily's hands trembled. Every stone she touched sparked a flicker of hope, but the unyielding silence crushed her spirits each time. Finally, she collapsed to her knees, gripping the dirt with her hands. "Jacob, please be there. Please don't leave me," she whispered, her voice breaking. Sandra knelt beside her, gently placing a hand on her arm. "Emily, this is the hardest fight of all, but you're already a warrior. Jacob is so lucky to have a mother like you. We'll find him," she said with conviction. A while later, one of the rescue workers found a toy car buried in the rubble. Emily instantly recognized it and broke into tears. This was Jacob's favorite toy. He couldn't sleep without it, she sobbed. Sandra carefully handed her the toy. "This could be a sign that he's still here, Emily. A sign that we can't give up," she said softly. Emily clutched the toy to her chest, her resolve strengthening. "I'll fight with every breath I have to find him," she said firmly. As night fell, the teams paused their work. Sandra and Emily sat off to the side, gazing at the starry sky that seemed to mock the devastation below. Emily turned to Sandra, her voice cracking. "Losing David was the hardest thing I've ever faced. But a life without Jacob, I can't even imagine it," she said, tears streaming down her face. Sandra took Emily's hands in hers, looking into her eyes with unwavering determination. "We will find Jacob, Emily. And when this darkness lifts, you'll see his smile again. I promise you," Sandra said, her voice steady yet gentle. For the first time, Emily felt a flicker of hope, realizing she wasn't alone in her battle. After hours of relentless searching, a rescue team finally heard a faint voice coming from a specific area of the rubble. Sandra and Emily rushed over, holding their breath in anticipation. As the debris was carefully lifted away, a small voice cried out, "Mom?" Emily's tears streamed uncontrollably. When they finally pulled Jacob out from beneath the wreckage, Emily and Sandra embraced tightly. Jacob clung to his mother, and Sandra's eyes welled with tears. In that moment, she was reminded once again that love was the greatest gift life could offer. Jacob had survived with only minor injuries, though the fear and trauma were visible in his eyes. Emily, holding him tightly, said, "I was so afraid I'd never see you again, Jacob. But here you are. You mean more to me than anything." Jacob gently touched his mother's face, whispering, "Mom, I could always hear you. I kept waiting for your voice. I knew you'd find me." Sandra silently wiped her tears as she watched the mother and son reunite. The love and connection they shared illuminated the darkness of the tragedy like a beacon of hope. This is not just a rescue, it's a triumph of love and the will to survive, Sandra thought to herself, smiling as she witnessed the powerful reunion. The air, heavy with grief, moments ago, now carried a sense of renewal and joy. As Jacob's safe return symbolized a new beginning for the family, Sandra decided to build a home for Emily and Jacob. Partnering with Habitat for Humanity, she arranged for a small but cozy house to be constructed on the site where the rubble once stood. Sandra worked on the construction herself, ensuring that every brick laid would be a part of their fresh start. Throughout the process, Jacob and Emily expressed their deep gratitude to Sandra. When the house was completed a month later, Emily hugged Sandra tightly. "We could never have experienced this moment without you. You've given us our lives back," she said, with tears in her eyes. Jacob held Sandra's hand and said, "Thank you, you're my hero." Sandra, overcome with emotion, replied, "The real hero is your mother, Jacob. She's the strongest person I've ever met. This house is a new beginning for both of you." As Emily and Jacob settled into their new home, peace and comfort replaced the chaos and despair of the past. Sandra made sure their story reached the world, a testament to a mother's unwavering love and the power of compassion and solidarity. Their journey inspired countless others, proving that even in the darkest moments, humanity and kindness could light the way forward. Jacob and Emily's story reminds us of the unbreakable bond of love and the power of compassion in rebuilding lives. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing to our channel, leaving a comment, and liking the video to help share their message of hope with the world. Together, we can inspire more acts of kindness.